Hey, Pin Dude here. Welcome back to My Vintage Pinball. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about vibrating tumblers that we use to clean our pinball metal parts, screws, nuts, and various other hardware that's made of some kind of metal material. So if you haven't gotten a tumbler yet, there's a few things you'll need to tumble, but not very much. So first, of course, you're going to need a vibrating tumbler. I have two models here that are roughly the same size, but different in cost. We'll go over them in just a second. You're also going to need some tumbling media. Also fairly cheap to buy, so not an issue. You're also going to need some way to get your parts out of the tumbler once you're done. I use a magnetic pickup tool. There's also, they sell sifters that you can use for this, but the problem with the sifters is all the small little hardware in pinball machines goes right to the sifter, so a magnet's the better way to go. You're also going to need some way to clean your parts before you put them in the tumbler so that your media lasts a lot longer. So that's as simple as using some cleaner. I happen to use mean green. Some kind of a bucket to put the mean green in and soak your parts in. And then some way to scrub your parts. I just use a toothbrush. Now the alternative method to cleaning your parts is to get a ultrasonic cleaner. So we'll go over that in just a moment too. But first, let's start with the tumblers. So I have two models here. This is the more common model that a lot of people seem to have. I've had this particular one for probably 12, 13 plus years. This is the Berry's Model 400 tumbler. It is available on the Berry's website, which is around $72.99 right now, I believe. Now this other model that looks very similar, and it is about the same size, this is the Frankfurt Arsenal Quick and Easy Case Tumbler. This one is available on Amazon for $39.99. I'll put links to both of these in the description down below. The links to everything that I'm going to show you here will be in the description down below. So let's take a look at these tumblers a little more. Basically all this is there is a motor down below, and then there's this spring-loaded platform in the middle, and then the pail on the top. So basically the motor just drives this pail around, and that's what cleans your parts. So inside is where you put your media and parts, and this is the Amazon one, essentially the same. The only noticeable difference I can tell between these two models is that the pail on this one is a much thicker plastic, whereas the Amazon model is a much thinner plastic. How that will end up in the long run, I'm not sure. I've just got this one within this year, but I'm sure it'll hold up just fine. And for the price difference, you know, it's almost worth getting the Amazon one because it's only $40. Now on the Amazon one, there is one small modification that I found on a reloader's website that does help a lot. If you compare the Amazon model on the left here to the Berry's model on the right, you will see that the Berry's model has this kind of cone shape on the bottom here, whereas the Berry's one does not. It's almost perfectly flat on the bottom, and the metal shaft is fully exposed, whereas on the Berry's only the top part is exposed. So the modification is quite simple, and it costs anywhere from $5 to $7, depending on where you find these parts that you need. So let me show you what you need and how to modify quickly this Amazon tumbler. So the quick and simple modification to the inside of the Amazon tumbler is to go down to your local auto parts store or Walmart and buy this 3-pack of cheap funnels. It could be anywhere from $5 to $7. I think I paid about $6.99 for this. And the only one you need from this is the smallest of the funnels. And what we're going to do with this funnel is simply pop it right there. Now, you do have to snip off the very top, and I just used a small pair of shears to trim the top of the funnel off. And what you want is you want to put that funnel in there and then get a washer that fits over the shaft here. And you want to cut the funnel so that it's a nice, snug fit when the lid goes on. So you got your funnel, a washer, the outer washer, and your nut. And now, the inside of the Amazon vibrator looks the same as the Berries one. You have a nice cone shape. What that does is, as the media is folding over, it just kind of creates a little vortex effect, and it helps to polish your parts quicker. All right, now let's talk about the abrasive media that goes inside the tumblers. This darker color one is walnut shells, and the lighter color one is corn cob. The walnut shells are a little more aggressive, whereas the corn cob is a much finer media. So I mostly use walnut shells. When I have a lot of parts, I'll actually have walnut shells in both of my tumblers, which gives me more capacity to run more parts. The corn cob is good as a second pass. Let's say I run the parts 24 hours in the walnut shells. That takes off all the surface rust and leaves a pretty good finish, but it's not a real shiny finish. If you then run through the parts with the corn cob media for, say, 24 hours, the parts will have a slightly higher polish to them. Now, both of these medias can be bought on Amazon, and I'll have links down below. The walnut shells I use are a pet store product. I use the KT brand. It is called Walnut Bedding, and I buy it in 25-pound bags, and I believe it's around $20. The corn cob media I got on Amazon, and it is sold through the same brand as the Amazon Tumbler, which is Quick and Easy, and it is called Quick and Easy Brass Cleaning Media for vibrating case tumblers. And I believe it's a 15-pound bag, and it's around $16 or so. So it's nice to have both the walnut shell and the corn cob media. All right, so now we're going to talk about cleaning your metal parts before you put them in the tumbler. And the reason why this is important is if you take your metal parts that you've just pulled off your playfield and all the black coil dust and any other gunk that is on those parts, if you just throw that in your tumbler media, it's going to contaminate the tumbler media and make your media not last as long. So you always want to clean your parts before you put them in the tumbler. So that can be as simple as taking your cleaner, in my case mean green, putting some in a little Tupperware container, soaking the metal parts, and then scrubbing them with a toothbrush. And then either drying them by hand, or if you have an air compressor, using a blowgun to make sure those parts are nice and dry before you put them in your tumbler. The alternative method is to use a ultrasonic cleaner. This is the ultrasonic cleaner that is available on Harbor Freight, and it works very great and saves you a lot of scrubbing. Basically, this is just a tray that holds your cleaning fluid. There's a little parts tray that you can pull in and out of the unit, and then of course the lid. What I use in my ultrasonic cleaner is a mixture of mean green and water. I kind of wing the mixture, but it's anywhere between 25 and 40% mean green to the rest water. So once you have that filled up and you have your parts inside, you put the lid on. The other nice feature of this, it has a heater, this button that says TC. You press that, this red light comes on, and now the heater element is going to heat up your cleaning fluid, which will help clean the parts a lot quicker. You do have to watch this, as it'll get very hot. So this is how I typically run it. The screen here is showing you how many seconds this unit is running, the highest being 480 seconds. So I'll have my fluid and my parts in here, I'll turn the heater on, let it run for 5 or so minutes, and then I'll run a 480 second cycle. After that 480 second cycle, I'll typically run another 480 second cycle, but this time I'll turn the heater off. Once that's done and you pull your parts out, I'll scrub any residue that's left over, use my blow gun, blow the parts off. Once they're completely dry, they're ready to go into the tumbler. Okay, now that we have our cleaned metal parts, we're ready to start tumbling. So we load up our tumbler with, in this case, we're going to use walnut shells. Kind of give that a shake to even it up. And then we take our metal parts and we just throw them in there. And then I'm going to take the lid and we're just going to run that down a little bit. Now, you'll also want to add some kind of metal polish to your tumbling. The most recommended is called Flitz. It's a polishing compound that's actually marketed as a vibrating tumbler polishing compound, but it is kind of expensive. So I use, and I get this from Walmart, it's Turtle Wax Premium All Metal Polish. They also sell a cheaper one, which is some other kind of metal polish. And what you want to do with this is put a couple dabs of this into the tumbler before you run it. Once you have that all done, you put your lid on. Make sure the lid is tight. If the lid is loose, if you don't tighten this nut enough and the lid is loose, it'll make quite a bit more noise. I also put it on the floor in my garage. I have these rubber mats on the floor. That helps to keep the noise down. And then you turn it on and let it run. All right, after that's run for 24 hours, you take your lid off and use your magnetic pickup tool to get your parts out. The little screws can take a while sometimes, but you kind of just run it around there and you'll eventually pick up anything that's metal in there. And now if you're not happy with the results, just throw them back in the tumbler and run it for another 24 hours. And then after that, it's up to you whether you want to run it through corncob media or not. There's no other way that I know of to get the parts as clean, as fast, and as easy as using a vibrating tumbler. So there you have it. Some of the basics of running your pinball machine parts through vibrating tumblers to clean, shine, and polish your pinball metal parts. Hope this video was helpful to you. If you have any comments or feedback, please leave it down below. And once again, all the links to these products will be in the description below this video. This is Pin Dude from My Vintage Pinball. Thanks for watching and see you soon.